Thank you very much. So yes, my name is Rachel Thomas. I work for the Bread and Butter Thing. I am technically a community delivery and development officer, which means I am the one who goes out into the hub, to our hubs, with the food that I've mentioned, gets it packaged by volunteers and gets it sold. But I'm also the Healthy Start project officer because we are pushing the uptake of the Healthy Start scheme at our hubs through some customer education. You may also be aware that Andy Burnham has a food security panel that he started up, that our partnerships director Jane Partington also sits on. So I work at the sort of the customer level base and with the food groups, and what Jane does, she works as partnership directors at that sort of higher level to try and get the scheme pushed at a level that could actually mean something good for policy change. So that's who I am, and obviously you've already heard a little bit about what we do. So if we head on over to the next slide, what we're going to look at is, I'm going to introduce you very briefly to the Healthy Start scheme. If you do already know what it is, how people qualify, how they're eligible, and how we apply, then bear with me for the next few minutes. There will be information on how you can help and what information we can provide you and services we can provide you at the end as well. So we'll look at the uptake in England just to sort of drive home what Naomi was saying regarding the quite low uptake of the scheme in a lot of areas. The process of the fact that the paper vouchers are going digital, how to apply, how to get vitamins, and also how you as food groups and community groups and what have you can support the scheme, and how, as Naomi was saying, we could hopefully get Healthy Start cards accepted into your community spaces as well. And then we will look at how any questions that you've got. So the Healthy Start scheme itself is basically an NHS benefit. It funds healthy food and vitamins for families. I'm going to have to, there we go, on low incomes. And the idea is to give mother and baby, parent and baby, the best, healthiest start for themselves from birth. So the scheme provides funds for things like plain liquid cow's milk, fresh frozen tinned fruit and veg, the fresh dried and tinned pulses, and infant formula milk that's based on cow's milk. You can also get vitamins from pharmacies, and we'll have a look at that as well in a little bit. But what you'll effectively get on that card from your 10th week of pregnancy and after you've successfully applied is £4.25 every week up until your child is born. And then from birth to a year old, that goes up to £8.50 a week. And then from 1 year to 4 years old, it then goes back down to £4.25 a week. And then it just naturally stops once your child reaches 4 years of age. Families can also get free vitamins to support the healthy development. That actually just sort of linking in with what Naomi was saying about Healthy Start. My sister got Healthy Start when she was pregnant with her child, and those free vitamins and that infant formula was an absolute lifesaver for her because she was on medication that meant she couldn't breastfeed. So just again to sort of go into the details of why this scheme is important, it really does have a real world impact on the people that use it. So on to the next slide, just talk about very quickly eligibility for Healthy Start. You've probably all heard of these benefits, and as a result, I'm not going to go through them in too much detail. Just please do be aware that the pension credit has to include the child addition. Universal credit, you will qualify, but only if your take-home pay is £408 a month or less. And if you've got the child tax credit, you obviously need to be earning less than £16,190 or less. The good news is that if you're pregnant and under 18, you qualify regardless. You still have to apply, but you don't have to be claiming any form of income related job seekers allowance. You don't have to be claiming any benefit. You simply qualify regardless if you're under the age of 18. When it comes to your immigration status, that one is a little bit more chancy. If you are going to be talking to some of your service users who do not have recourse to public funds, i.e. they can't claim one of these benefits because of their immigration status or because they don't have one, then as far as we're aware, up until now, if you have parental responsibility for at least one British child under 4, you've got no recourse to the public funds, which are the benefits above, and your family earns less than that £408 a month benchmark or threshold, you should qualify. However, the immigration status one is a bit tricky. So what we're doing at the moment is anyone who isn't sure whether they can apply or not based on the immigration status, we're referring them to Citizens Advice. Our partnerships director, Jane, who I mentioned earlier, is currently in contact with people at Citizens Advice as well to try and make sure that they know that these referrals may come through. The other thing we've started to hear stories about is people who are being encouraged, from whom I'm not sure, but encouraged to switch from things like employment support allowance to universal credit to allow the Healthy Start application to be more successful. We can't really talk about that at all because we don't know anything about it. And so we would also encourage you in complex things like that to just refer them to citizens' advice, who should be able to give them further information based on their immigration status. You can check how to apply and you can check your immigration status just by Googling it, basically. So looking at the Healthy Start in England, these numbers are all from Feeding Britain. Basically, as of January this year, you've got about 218,000 households on low incomes in England who can't access the scheme because of particular barriers. It may be a language barrier. They may not be aware of the scheme. It costs money to call to activate your card if you don't have a landline or minutes on your phone. They may not have internet access. You know, there's various barriers in place there that mean that between November and December of last year, take-up of the scheme actually dropped by more than a fifth, from 65 to 51% over the course of England, which means that out of about 450,000 potential beneficiaries, only about 232 are actually enrolled onto the scheme. There's no local authority in England that has a take-up rate higher than 62%, which is also something that can be improved. And so what Feeding Britain has done, and I'll link to this on the Parliament UK website a little bit later in the presentation, is they've proposed an automatic registration scheme similar to the one that sees pensioners get their warm home discount automatically because they're on low incomes. Basically, between midwives, the DWP and HMRC, the government and local authorities in particular have all the information that they need to make this an automatic sign up. And I'm going to actually link to the Parliament UK early day motion a little bit later in the presentation to encourage you or anyone you know to write to your own MPs and encourage them to support this motion to make it automatic rather than making people apply. Thank you, Naomi. I'm ready for the next slide. So because it's going digital, you used to get these vouchers that I've showed before. The Healthy Start scheme as of this month is now digital, which means that if you are getting paper vouchers, but you want to keep getting the money, you need to reapply. It's not an automatic transfer. The easiest way of applying is via the Healthy Start NHS UK website. You will be told if you're eligible, or you'll be told if you're not. Now, there have been some technical issues and some technical glitches with the online registration process. People whose details have not changed, who have been getting the vouchers and who should automatically therefore qualify for the prepay card, are being told that they're being rejected. That seems to be a glitch in the system that the NHS confirmed this morning that they fixed, but it is something to bear in mind if you are wanting to support people who are applying, that it may take a little bit longer than usual. But ideally, your prepay card should arrive within a week of being approved. The funds are on there automatically. The customer does not have to top them up. And the card can be used in shops, food clubs, pantries, bread and butter thing. Basically, if you can accept a contactless debit or credit card payment, you should be able to accept the Healthy Start cards as well. And customers can always check their balance at any ATM by entering their PIN number. So the idea is to make it nice and easy. Just the switch over from paper to digital has not gone as smoothly, I think, as the NHS wanted. So in terms of applying, it should be a very quick and easy process. You will need, as an applicant, the most important thing is the benefit award code that is on your benefits letter. You then need your name, your address, and your date of birth that exactly match the details the DWP should have on your system. You need your national insurance number, and if you're pregnant, also your baby's due date. Once you enter in those details, it's literally either a yes or a no. If it's a yes, the card arrives within a week. If it's a no, you can always call up the NHS helpline and ask why you're not eligible anymore, despite the fact that you used to be, and you should get further support there. You can then activate your card on an automated phone line once you get it, and you can set up your PIN from there. So the idea is it's a discrete card. You shouldn't be able to tell as a shopkeeper necessarily whether the person is paying with a normal card or a Healthy Start card. It's meant to be discrete. And so that's why you've got your PIN number as well. You can also use the QR code that's down the bottom. If I could just go back one slide, Naomi. The QR code that is at the bottom right of the screen currently, you can actually scan that yourself from this presentation, if you want, it takes you directly to the Healthy Start NHS website to allow you to apply. If anyone wants access to the QR code or any of the flyers or anything that I've got, I'll show those briefly. You're welcome to pop your email address in the chat directed at me, and I will collate those, and at the end of this presentation I'll send out any e-documents or flyers that you feel you could use. Okay, so let's have a look at the next slide. It gives you access to vitamins. So the idea is that they take their card, the customer takes their card to a vitamin distributor such as a pharmacist. The distributor just has to be shown the card as evidence that that person is a Healthy Start beneficiary, checks, are you pregnant, how many kids under the age of 4, and that will allow them to make the decision as to what the best vitamins to give that person are. Ideally, of course, the person who is the beneficiary, whose name is on the card for the Healthy Start card, should be the person picking it up. It's very difficult for a third party with someone else's Healthy Start card to pick those up. So there just needs to be a bit of accessibility to bear in mind. You can also just Google or look at the link on the right-hand side of your screen for a list of distributors who accept Healthy Start cards and vouchers. Alternatively, if you are pregnant and currently receiving midwife care, you can also ask your midwife and they should be able to point you in the right direction. So the big question, of course, is how do we as food providers, how do we help? How do we support this scheme? Well, generally speaking, if you're in any one of these boxes here, you are considered to be on the front line of people who are going to come into contact with people who are most likely to need and be able to benefit from the Healthy Start program. So obviously you've got people in primary schools, children's centres, you've got the health side of things like GPs, midwives, health visitors, you've got baby banks, and then you've got this sort of area for the group that I'm talking to now, which is things like food banks, other relevant voluntary community and social enterprises, and of course people who are social prescribing link workers who are able to refer, based on the service they provide, refer people out to other services that they might need. Citizens advice would obviously be one. One of the things that Bread and Butter Thing does is invite wraparound services to our hubs. So customers who are experiencing food insecurity will often also experience mental health difficulties, or they will be experiencing difficulties, particularly these days, in affording things like their fuel, their gas, their electricity. So one of the things that Bread and Butter Thing does is link up with people like Maximus, who are a mental health organisation. We'll link up with people doing the winter fuel voucher scheme, and we will try and refer people out based on the food service we provide to other things that they may wish to look at, to see if it can help them, basically empower them to save a little bit more money. And that's the idea, of course, between working with all of you and hopefully you working with us to be able to get those links together. So if we click forward a little, I should have another little paragraph coming up. So ideally, what you can do to help as food providers and service providers like that is to promote the scheme to your customers and your service users. Word of mouth is a huge thing for the Healthy Start program right now. So part of it is just education, talking to your people who are using your service to promote the scheme. If they talk about having difficulty with providing food or being pregnant with another child, keeping it, but being worried about bills, it's things like just pointing them towards the scheme and getting them to apply. I've got flyers, hopefully you can see those. I've got flyers that I can provide you, editable versions that are ready to go. We have posters that we display at our hubs to say that we take the Healthy Start cards and vouchers. We also offer a service to actually get customers to sign up at the hubs as long as they've got the right documentation. But we've got QR codes, we've got flyers, posters, NHS leaflets, and I am more than willing to provide e-documents of those, including physical flyers as well. If necessary, we can get those out to you. I know Naomi has said from Feeding Liverpool's perspective, they might have some help as well in providing printing out the flyers and taking on the costs for that. The other way that you can also help is to take card payments if you can. So iZettle or an equivalent sort of payment taker, anywhere where you can simply get a box for your wireless contactless payments that will accept Visa and MasterCard will automatically accept Healthy Start cards as well. So you don't need to register, you don't need to claim anything back. You simply need to be able to take card payments in order to take them at your food clubs. Fees may apply, obviously, we don't know about that specifically, but you'd need to look into that, and perhaps Feeding Liverpool, Naomi and Feeding Liverpool might be able to help with that as well. We'll obviously circle back to Naomi at the end of the presentation. The other thing we've noticed is that it's taking a long time to call someone to activate a card. A lot of our customers are on pay-as-you-go, which means that anything between 3p and 55p a minute call charges are call charges they simply can't afford. If anyone who is listening at the moment is in a position to provide a landline or a mobile with minutes in the plan, in case that call goes over long, things like that can be the difference between people who think they will sign up and people who decide not to. If you go onto the NHS Healthy Start website on Facebook right now, for example, you know, when it goes right, you don't hear anything, but when it goes wrong, you see sort of post after post of it's not working, why isn't it working? You know, if they need to call up and talk to someone for 40 minutes, they're not going to do that if it's 55p a minute unless they've got a landline. So anything like that you can provide as food clubs to help out would be a huge, huge help in overcoming that barrier to access. And also just be on the lookout for other organisations to link and refer to as part of your work, which obviously you will be already. Bread and Butter Thing hopefully can go on that list. But yeah, it's just like we are now. It's getting together, working together, talking together, and sharing resources and sharing flyers to really just get the word out as to what this scheme is and how it can benefit people to try and get that uptake. You know, Naomi was saying there's no extra sort of funding that's been tied to this because we already have the funding. The question is getting the uptake big enough that we can use that funding as it's been provided. You can also write to your local MP. So the statistics I gave on the slide with the Feeding Britain logo about there being about a 51% uptake in November and December of last year, that was from Feeding Britain's proposal to make registration for this automatic, because local authorities and midwives between them, they have the information necessary to make this an automatic benefit rather than forcing people to apply while they're pregnant, just giving birth, getting used to new baby. You know, ideally it should be automatic. So if you have a look at that link, the MP who started the proposal is Rebecca Newell-Buck. If you have a look for Healthy Start and you Google for that and you look for sort of January of this year as a date range, you will find it. You can always write to your local MP and ask them to support that motion, spread the word for that as well, and get many people as possible writing to their MPs to say this should be an automatic registration process because we have all the details we need. So any further information on that, I'm obviously more than happy to talk about. But if there are any questions that you have for me or about the Healthy Start scheme, then I am more than willing to take them now. And thank you very much for listening to me and for making time for me. I do appreciate it.